Tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. No aux in the car. Riding around bumping that first blueprint on this. I ain't trying to hear what the info is. I been trying to move on the impulsive tip. Do you want dip? I can tell you ain't having that much fun. 3 years in with your ex-boyfriend, y'all tied that knot, but it's back undone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to stack 1 ton. You ain't gotta ask where that come from. I ain't never rock no pack, son. I was on the pack at the mall, same mess. I skip class, no hallway pass. I'm team cap, you was always last. She got good hands and all state. I got good kids and they all came fast. I ain't gotta say it, you can come to the Ville. Just ask who's hot, they gon' all say Jack. Told me stay down, but I always have. When I come around, man, they always ask, how does it feel? Ain't shit, tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's off the charts. Started my night with the light. When I got to the club, I was off for the dark. And I'm on a wave like a dolphin and shark. Y'all took shots, they was off for the mark. Keep it raw from the start.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the program Tigers Tonight. I'm your host, John Maddox, joined as always by the best co-host in all the land. We will start in the Great White North with our friend Brian Moss. Brian, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. Nipples a little hard because it's been chilly here today.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because Memphis finally had a football coach. I thought that we got things going. And speaking of people who are doing like the least favorite thing I can imagine a Memphian doing, our own Larry Marley is driving from Louisville to Knoxville. Is there any?
Right.
Is
Those are
there?
two, and those who don't know. Memphis is actually playing Louisville this weekend in Louisville, and so today I was graced with a lot of stories about the history of Memphis and Louisville. So, and if you don't know, it is a storied rivalry. But
Uh,
hardly.
yeah, Jason Munsley. He wrote a. He's got a great series right now that he and Jonah worked really hard on over the commercial appeal that talks all about the history. Do you guys know the best thing about Louisville, Kentucky?
The interstate that leaves it.
There's 3 of them that can get you out of there: 64, 65, and 71.
And,
What
and, and when you leave, you are in bourbon country. So there you go.
It's an instant improvement, and as talk about going back in the the archives, as Jack Eaton would say, if Louisville was playing the Russians, we root for the Russians. All right, so let's get, so good luck to Penny Hardaway this weekend. This game that one thing, and we're going to get into the coaching and all that here in a second, but I think that's one thing that we lack now is we don't have anybody to like focus our hatred on that kind of reciprocates. So miss having Louisville in the league, miss being with them in Cincinnati, but is what it is. Money screws everything up. So, but here we are. So, lots happened since we last convened here, guys. We'll get into some more specifics here in a minute. But Larry, I'll start with you. Your initial thoughts of the Charles Huff hire.
So, as most of you know, both my daughters go to Southern Miss, and we are actually season ticket holders for Southern Miss football. I would just say that I saw Charles Huff turn that program around firsthand, and I will just add, I think this was a tough cycle, and I think Charles Huff he did really well. Is he Mullen? No, he's not Dan Mullen, but Charles Huff is a solid football coach. And remember, we didn't fire our coach. He left. And so it's not like we chose to be in this coaching cycle. So I thought we did really well, guys. I was a Matt guy. I still am a Jerry Mack guy. I was all on board for Jerry Mack. But this was a solid hire, and from all accounts, and Brian, I know you're going to say this, from all accounts, everything we've heard is that Huff really interviewed excellently. So we're just going to have to trust the judgment of Dr. Scott.
Yeah. For all indications that I was told, his interview just blew the Memphis admin just out of the water. So much so that you know Coach Mack didn't even have a chance for a follow up interview. So that was supposed to happen, and it was canceled because Huff became the guy after that interview. And I mean, good hire. I mean, I don't think I know everyone got caught up with the other name, but when you break it down, see where Charles Huff came from, what he's done, his recruiting ability, his ability to change a program around. And I've talked to some Memphis fans that say, well, Memphis doesn't need to, there's nothing to turn around. I'm like, well, if you think about it, you turn around as get to a conference final. I mean, conference championship. So there is something that he can do at Memphis to change things. So, in that sense, I mean, it's an absolute, great hire. Now it's all eyes on, what's he going to do with his staff?
Yeah, and I think that is one of the keys when you have a new coach is everybody loves the big press conference that Memphis is having tomorrow. By the way, where the coach comes out, we shake babies, kiss hands, or kiss babies and shake hands, whichever you want to do, and the wife and the kids come out, and there's balloons and all that. But the real work comes after tomorrow, and going out and assembling a staff, going out and putting a staff together. Jeb, you are absolutely right.
Mhm.
Tomorrow's a big impression. It's a big chance for Charles Huff to make a good impression on people that might be, because I'll admit it, I was one. But when I sit there and I look at, I've been going through the numbers this afternoon, and we'll get into them in just a minute here in terms of statistics from 24 to 25 at Southern, and what guys like James Franklin say and guys like Nick Saban say, that carries quite a bit of weight with me because, especially Coach Saban. If you were good enough to coach for Coach Saban and be a lead recruiter for him on several big talents, if you coach Saquon Barkley, I mean, we're good. It's not. It's just one of those things. It's like he's not the flashy name. I never didn't get a chance to, but the article I was going to write, I wrote one that I said, Memphis needs a splash hire. And if Dan Mullen was a splash hire, off the diving board, huge cannonball, Jerry Mack would have been off the side of the pool into the cannonball, into the pool. And Charles Huff is just kind of hanging out down there at the end of the pool, but he's already in the pool. So tomorrow is an important day for him. Um, we're going to get into staff here in a minute and kind of how that whole process works. But so, Brian, let's kind of rewind. We'll start with you. We'll rewind to a week ago Sunday at 9. My phone says 9:47 a.m. is when all hell broke loose with Silverfield to Arkansas. And then we immediately started hearing names, one of which was Dan Mullen. Jerry Mack was another one. I didn't hear a lot of Charles Huff at first. As the week went on, I heard Tyson Helton. I heard I heard all these names, and I was just got kind of carried away with it. I think got kind of taken in, and the reality is, Brian, and I think you'll agree with me, Memphis wasn't hiring Dan Mullen.
No,
That wasn't going to happen.
yeah, that was I think some boosters, especially that were feeding information to everyone. I think that's who they wanted, but Charles Huff was a name that I didn't hear day one or day two, but like on Tuesday ish, I, on three, Pete Nokos, he came out and said that it was pretty much a 2-horse race between, Charles Huff and Jerry Mack. So that was the really, when he says something, it's like, all right, he's very well connected, and So I think from then on, it was a two-horse race, but we kept hearing. And I mean, I'll just come out and say it, with this Dan Mullen stuff, everyone that kept, pushing it, we were duped.
Yep, 100%.
And we're not the only ones that were duped, but some of the same. I bet you the same boosters that were talking to me were talking to the other Memphis media members, pushing the same story, or maybe, just maybe, because I said it on the message boards, maybe it was a smokescreen. Maybe they were pushing it for a reason to keep other candidates, just low key. So, but anyway, it's in the past. I just took names of everybody who was pushing an agenda, and I'll think twice about believing them again.
Larry, your thoughts on kind of the whole process and how the actual mechanics of it went down?
So it's funny. I remember early in the year when Southern was playing really well and Memphis was both playing really well. I remember telling my wife, if something happens to Silverfield, Huff, I really thought Huff might get a bigger job, actually. But Huff would be a candidate. And there was a little bit of premonition there. But the truth was, we all heard Mullen, and you'll hear these people go. I heard Gary Parrish say, and I love Gary, but I heard him say, well, the beat writers they knew that Mullen wasn't really happening. That is some BS because I've seen the text messages, and I got text messages from those dudes that were saying Mullen. Okay, and so we have the receipts. Um,
I know I kept
I,
mine.
right? I mean, we all saw them, guys. Like we all the same dudes that are now going. Well, we knew Dan wasn't. No, bull caca. Um, so the way it played, I don't know why they would do that, other than there was somebody that either somebody really thought they could get it, or they were trying to. There was a little bit of a gamesmanship, maybe with because so one of the things, the reason they did wait so long to finally announce it was because Huff's buyout went down. I think on
Nope.
Monday. Was it Sunday or Monday? I don't remember.
Nope.
But
His buyout didn't go down until today, and he signed yesterday.
oh, oh, okay.
I thought it
I was
was.
told
I
that
thought
was
it
why
went
they were
down on
waiting.
the 8th.
I thought it went down on the 8th, which was yesterday. I don't know. I'll let you guys figure all that crap out. But that's what I was told, was that yes, his buyout was going down, so they waited a day. But anyway, so that was sort of, and so guys, it could have totally just been, hey, we know who we're going to hire. We're going to put the, as John, you said, smoke screen out there, and then roll with it. But hey, um,
His term sheet
it's
says, real quick, his term sheet says if Huff leaves on or before December 8th, his buyout is $1 million. If he leaves after that and before 2026, it's 750. That's reporting from Jonah Dillon over the commercial deal.
okay. So I don't know how they're going to work that. There's zero chance that they're going to let 12 hours or whatever. So I'm sure they've got that worked out. But whatever, that was the whole reasoning. And I look, I saw with my own eyes. Charles Huff can coach now. Am I like, is that the guy I was envisioning on Sunday? No. But as you start to see, and look, Penn State saw this play out this way. Tulane just saw this play out this way. Like, guys, this was a tough cycle, and to get, did we get maybe the guy that was number one on everybody's wish list? No, but we did better, I think, than Penn State and Tulane did.
Oh,
Look, I like Matt Campbell, but I think he's a bit of a square
oh,
peg in a round hole.
oh no,
His,
no,
you think
no, no.
you think so?
Matt Campbell. I've long said that 8-4 at Iowa State is 11-1 everywhere else. That is an impossible place to win. He's done. There's a reason He's done, the same things over and over very consistently. If there is a loser this cycle, what in the hell is happening uptown New Orleans? How do you go
And
for a week and end up with the guy that Charles Huff they hired to replace because he went 1-11? And then this is the all right, now you've got me. This is the disingenuous crap that I'm tired of seeing everywhere. When the press put out that, well, Will Hall is 70-40 in his career. Yes, he's 56-10 at the Division II level. He's 14-30 as an FBS head coach. I don't know how it got to that point. I'm not connected to Tulane very well, so I don't see how you get Will Hall. I think USF knocked it out of the park. I think USF probably did about as good as anybody could in the country. I think Memphis did fine. I think Penn State knocked it out of the park, although it took them 748 days to get there. Iowa State, y'all, this is no joke. Iowa State, 46 minutes. Talk about having a plan. Jamie Pollard had a plan. 46 minutes after Matt Campbell walks out of his office and gets in the truck to go to the airport, Jimmy Rogers is announced as the next head coach of Iowa State. That's called having a, and I'm not saying anything about anybody else's search, but that's called having a plan and knowing who your guy was and knowing who you were going to go get and not doing what Tulane did and getting led down. Do we think Blake Baker was a serious candidate, Memphis, Brian? What are your thoughts on that? Or Larry, either one, both?
who was that again?
Blake Baker from
Blake Baker. No, he was not a serious candidate.
Well, I mean, someone reported, was it a New Orleans?
To get money out of LSU.
Yeah. I was going to say, someone reported he interviewed, but, I don't, maybe it was serious on Memphis's part, but his part, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But Tulane, they let him string him along and then I guess they got scared. But then Jerry Mack pulled himself out of their process. So that tells me all is not well with our friends uptown in New Orleans. But Larry, you're right. This coaching cycle was hard. It's why Luke Fickell still has a job. It's why Mike Norvell still has a job. I think people looked around and said, there's not enough great coaches to fill these great jobs, because for the most part, Penn State, I'll say it, USF, Memphis, Tulane, those are really good jobs, like really, really good jobs. And everybody struggled to get their guy except for USF. They just went out and said, you know what, boom, we're going to get our guy. I want to touch on the back end of this, and this is the last time I want to talk about Ryan Silverfield on this podcast. And that's not like, this is not a hate dump on him or anything. When he said what he said about last week or whenever he got hired, he was on an interview and he said, we had coaches calling us, and when this thing got offered, that kind of people ran with that. And I was like, that's just a kind of a slip, that's probably not what happened. But then Hunter Yurchek says he was the first coach we talked to in October and the last coach we talked to in November. I will tell you, he did interview the week of the UAB game, or the bye week right through there at some point with Arkansas. So that explains a lot about the end of the season. But I do want to clear something around that, and you guys, of course, can weigh in on this. Baby, that's how the sausage gets made today. It is what it is. This is not, Ryan was not coming out and, being ugly to Memphis or doing anything that any other coach doesn't do, right? Like, this is just how the business works today. You especially if you have those mid to late season buys, you interview then, let the chips fall where they may, and it just plays out. We did get Fuente, but you know what? How many ever schools replace coaches? Probably got Fuente at some point along the way. It is what it is. And we'll get into business here in a little bit, but Brian, what are your thoughts about like now versus 10, 15 years ago? Like how different it is, with coaches and just I think this kind of stuff's always happened, but
Yeah,
there's just a bigger light on it right now.
yeah. It just it was a lot easier to get Well, I should say it was a lot easier to get truthful information 15 years ago than it is now. Because I think there's more smokescreen stuff that happens now than back then. Um, because I remember when Fuente was hired. There was no really, someone feed me info just to, throw off the scent. When Norvell was hired, there was no, oh, so and so's interviewing, take a look at this. It's a done deal. None of that. But this time, man, it was Native American smoke signals coming out. Man,
Yeah.
it was nuts. And because I went back while you were talking before, I went through our thread, the Memphis coaching hot board, and Thursday night is when I got texted, hearing a done deal, working to confirm it. And I had at minimum 6 people tell me it was Dan Mullen. So I was like, yeah, I'll just put it on the message board for now without making an article. And let's see, that was at 7:50 p.m. on Thursday.
And these are other media members that are telling us this because I saw the text messages. It's not, and I'm going to save the names to protect the guilty, but the bottom line is we're not talking about some guy off a message board. We're talking about people that have radio shows and stuff are telling us this.
Well, I think the other side of it too is, and I know you both ended up with this, and a couple of the other folks I talked to. It's a done deal. It's signed. Who is it?
Yes, I
I,
got
I,
that 3 or 4 times.
No, I had 6 people. That's what I was saying. At what was it, 7:50? 6 people told me who it was. I put it on the message board that, hey, if this is correct, your next head coach is Dan Mullen. Not even an hour later, I did another post that
Pump
says
the
pump the
brakes.
brakes, because I had a call. And obviously it was a source that's somewhat connected, because I mean, I didn't tell anybody else except the message board that, hey, I would not put Dan Mullen's name out there if I were you. Someone else said, be careful, Brian. I don't want you to get burned. Less than an hour after six, you know, I would say formerly trusted sources told me it was Dan Mullen, all of a sudden now it's, hey, don't do that. So this is how easy it is to get burned.
Well, and
And
I forget the gentleman's name with Arkansas, although I think that was a smokescreen too, with the whole thing
mhm,
where, Alex Golesh is done, yada, yada, yada. His camp gets
yeah,
pissed and they get cold feet. So now you look at it, you're like, well, Coach Silverfield said October, Hunter Yurachek says October. So were they just yanking this poor guy's chain? And now, the smokes, it's getting harder and harder to get good information. But I ended up getting more on Thursday and Friday, it's done, we've got a coach. Well, who is it?
yeah.
I mean,
And it was so I feel it was a done deal
I think
Friday,
so too.
Thursday, Friday-ish, and I posted Saturday night.
Yeah.
I go back and check that. Hey, because I had I'll just say someone who interviewed texted me, enjoy the Huff era, and I posted out that, and then just that was Saturday night. And I mean, I was up till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Saturday trying to figure out, yeah, hey, can I get just one more person so I can write the article? But at 2 a.m., I just texted Pete, and I was like, Pete, here's what I have. I'm going to bed. You break it in the morning. And that's what
You,
happened.
you know, and
He broke it in the morning.
it's so funny, guys, how like the folks that I'm not heavily connected, and I just want to say this publicly. This is my final coaching search. I will not get involved in this nonsense anymore.
Agreed.
I hate
Mm-hmm.
silly season now because I'll be blunt, we're real here. I got burned and I don't appreciate it. And like you said, 6 former sources, I got 3 or 4 people that I won't trust again. um, because I got made to look like an idiot, and that's fine. It is what it is.
It happens.
Ain't the first time, and sure as hell won't be the last. But you remember things, and somebody joked, the bigger guy than I am, he's like, I'm the size of an elephant, so I got a memory like one. But I, I think I want to absolve myself of the process because it's so out of hand. And Jeb is right. About any you can have a sports program of some sort with 5 good sponsors or 3 old dudes and 3 microphones. Like, podcast equipment should be much more expensive than it is today, or some licensing or something. But I think that kind of stuff is just out of hand, and that's something for maybe fans to kind of take on, from my perspective, anyway. Um, but the process, I think, worked, like Dr. Scott wanted it to. I think this was, I like Dr. Scott. I've never had a negative interaction with him. It would not surprise me if not him, someone in that athletic department was not, I don't want to use the word instructed, allowed to let some things trickle out to kind of throw off the, because, people were busy tracking planes when remember when that
Oh yeah.
was the thing 4 or 5 years ago, is you tracked planes. You used to have You know what's funny, Jeb? You say a wrestling license. You used to have a license to be on the radio. I wish I still had my little card. It was a little yellow card. I was an FCC certified radio telecommunications operator. It's fancy. Um, but I just think that, you watched planes, but then here's the thing I had to remind everybody. We hired Mike Norvell at the Hilton at the Dallas airport. We didn't hire Mike Norvell in Memphis. We didn't hire Mike Norvell in Tempe. We hired Justin Fuente at Chicago Midway. So you can't just look at planes and go, oh, well, there's a plane coming from Vegas to Memphis. That doesn't mean anything. That, I've reminded people, it's like, Vegas is a very big, popular city. A lot of high rollers fly private planes to Vegas. There are other conventions going on. Like, there's just so much, out there. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody didn't intentionally allow some things to get out of control. And I think what that did, I can't speak from anybody else's perspective, but for Charles Huff, I think one of the things that may have done, his worst crime on whatever day it was, I don't even know, Sunday morning, I guess, being named coach, is his name wasn't Dan Mullen. And I think that was the takeaway, that if Mullen never comes in, like if that name is never put out there,
Everyone would be saying it's a Grand Slam hire.
How do Memphis fans feel about it? Well, not everybody. We got a couple of our favorite fans that won't ever feel that way, but I think everybody looks a little brighter at it. They look at it a little more clearly. Like, I think it was funny, Larry. I don't know if you noticed this too. We're watching the the Kennesaw State game on Friday night, and I think even a couple of the people that were like Mullen supporters are like, "Oh, so now everybody loves Jerry Mack," and we're all like, "No, we are literally watching a football game now. Is there a chance that Jerry Mack will be the next coach at Memphis? Sure, but he's good. He's damn good. Like, he was a good coach. That was a great game, a gritty game. I'd have sworn to you after that game that he was going to be the coach. Brian, I know I argued with you for 10 minutes over text. I would have sworn that he was the coach. But I think Memphis, all things considered, did a bang up job here. And I hate for 2 things. I hate for the Memphis search that Dan Mullen was unreasonably injected into it. And I guess I kind of hate it for Mullen a little bit, because
and that they let it go on, John. That's so there's the egregious part of this, guys, is that they purposely let this go on. Look, John, we've all been here. There are ways that you let stuff out that it's not happening, and it doesn't have to be. You just let them out. Like, okay, and it would leak out. People. Brian would find out. Gabe would find out, Jonah, all these people would find out, okay, it's not happening. And it would just be but they left that sit out there. And that's wrong. That's just wrong. It's wrong to Coach Huff. And, you know, so yes, I'm a little pissed off about that.
Yeah, I hate it for him, and I hate it for Jerry Mack. If he would have gotten the Memphis job, his biggest crime would have been his name's not Dan Mullen. And here's the other thing that I want to remind people of. If you're taking the head coach job at Memphis, you got warts. And that's not negative to the Memphis program. If you're taking the head coaching job, you either have warts or you've never done the job before. One of the two things are probably true. If you're taking the USF job, the Tulane job, all coaches have warts. There's risk reward associated with everybody. Here's the reality. Dan Mullen had been at UNLV for a year. Let's say you hire Dan Mullen, you pay his whatever buyout, and you pay him his $4 million a year and all that. Mississippi State fires Jeff Lebby next year. If Dan Mullen's sitting here 8-2, how fast do you think somebody's going to drive him to Starkville? So you have an inherent, and people, I've heard that all week. Well, you got to quit hiring these sitting coaches because you're making the Memphis job a stepping stone job. There are 136 FBS programs, I think, at this point. Is that right?
I believe so.
130 of them are stepping stone jobs. No matter what our friends in Oxford want to think, or no matter what our friends in Mississippi State want to think, or Tennessee or Arkansas, there's Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Florida State. Think anybody else? LSU. I mean, all the other jobs, I can't think of all of them, but 98% of the jobs, USC for some crazy reason still is. Every job's a stepping stone job. And I said this the day Memphis was looking for a coach. All you got to ask is that the coach that has it leaves it as good or better than he found it, because nobody stays anywhere forever. There will never be another Bobby Bowden. There will never be another Joe Paterno. There will never be another. Bear Bryant had 3 jobs. Like, think about that. Think about, the greatness, and we associate him with Vanderbilt or with Alabama. He had other jobs before then. But you're not going to have these, Matt Campbell was at 14 years, I think, at Iowa State. It was some Kirk, like, there's never going to be another Kirk Ferentz. Hang on, Iowa fans. I promise there will never be another Kirk Ferentz. Jason Candle, who just took the UConn job. He'd been a college football coach since 2006 and had been at Toledo since 2009. Like, those guys, those jobs are just few and far between unless you get the absolute right guy. Jim Mora left Storrs, Connecticut for Colorado Springs. So it is what it is. It's, I just hate that the search publicly played out the way it did. But I do also want to say with Memphis fans, don't feel alone. My thought process is, I would venture to say, and Brian, I want your numbers on this. Tell me the percentage of fan bases that right now, let's say there's 136, whatever, FBS schools. What do you think the percentage of fan bases are that are very happy with their coach?
Oh, probably less than 10%, I'd say.
I think it's a stupid low number.
Yeah.
I think the highest number is those that are content. And the largest number is probably those who hate everything and hate their coach and hate their program. And, college football has become what I've always said about wrestling. And, dude, Indiana loves that dude. Like, and they should. Man, what a great story, though. Anyway.
Yeah.
Wrestling and comic book movies, those two things have one thing in common. People watch the product to legitimately crap on the product. We call it hate watching in the wrestling world. And I think you're starting to see that with college football, because nobody hates college football more than people that get paid to cover college football. It's just been the most. This has been a very eye opening week for me. Like I have been a bit naive about a lot of things in college football media, but this week has, buddy, my eyes are
Yeah.
wide open.
And I know a lot of fans point or look to South Florida and say, well, look, they made a better hire. Time will tell. But I don't think so, because if you take a look at what Hartline has done and what Huff has done, to me, there's no comparison. Huff has the better resume. The flashier name would be Hartline because, oh, it's Ohio State. He was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. He was the only offensive coordinator in 2023. He did so well, they made him co-offensive coordinator in 2024. Let's just pump the brakes
Well, and I think
on.
I agree, but I think it's, and we I know the three of us talked about this. It's about finding the right guy for you,
Yes.
right? Like Brian Hartline probably fits that program.
And to me, they needed a splashy hire because all the colleges in Florida that, have more shine than South Florida. Memphis didn't need a splashy hire. They needed the right hire. And I've said that numerous times from someone that was, somewhat involved in the coaching search at Memphis, told me that, and I put it on the board. Memphis is not looking for the splashy hire. They're looking for the right hire. And to me, they got the right hire.
Memphis is one of the few places, Larry, where a lot of people talk about fit and family and what all that other stuff that Mike used to talk about. Memphis is a culture job. Like it is a, you have to be in the culture, right? Like, and that means different things to different people. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he went. I'm sure there are pictures. I never saw Ryan Silverfield at Gibson Donuts. I never saw him at Corky's. Like, I never saw him at Music Fest. Like, Memphis is a culture job. And if you don't come in and embrace this culture of who we are as a city, Memphis ain't Tampa. Like, and that's, you can flash and dash in Tampa a little bit, right? Like Brian, you went to school there. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can be a little flashy there. Like it's almost a requirement. Like but here it's just people will figure shit out if you're not for real. Like they can figure it out. They can see it. That's why the Grizzlies coaches don't last. That's why a lot of athletes struggle here because Memphis isn't going to buy it. Like this is a gritty, hard nosed. Is this a town that Dan Mullen could have worked in? Who knows?
The answer to your question is it's funny. You and I kind of talked about this over the weekend. The one thing about Memphis that's not the job itself is tough enough, but the thing is, the fans want a certain style of football and basketball too, for that matter, and that is the only thing about Silverfield that was frustrating was that he didn't really embrace that style, right? He liked a more NFL style of, ground control, control the ball, play good, solid defense, and uh, and score enough to win, right? That and I think Memphis tend to like a little more high scoring, a little more open. The air raid style that Charles Huff has espoused and played, and I saw it with my own eyes. Um, I think is going to the offense. I think is going to be appealing. The the thing is, he did a great job overall with the defense because last year Southern Miss didn't even look like a football team. I'm telling you guys, I sat there and watched the Charles Huff Marshall team run up and down the field, and they didn't even act like they wanted to play. Sorry, Tulane fans, I'm not lying. And now you got him coming in. All I can hope, they say he builds a culture. I do think Memphis does in need of a culture. We need a culture. Whatever that is, I always thought that Ryan never instilled a quote unquote culture. He didn't have a style. And I do think at the very least, Charles Huff has a style.
So let's now that we've kind of talked through the process, and I want to spend a couple minutes, let's talk through the change at Southern Miss from last year this year, and why I think Memphis fans probably should give this a bit more of a chance. Last year, scoring offense, Southern Miss was 14th in the Sun Belt, averaging just 15.3 points per game. Texas State was number one at 36.5. This year, Southern Miss is 5th in the league at 29.8 points per game. So that's scoring offense. Let's take, sorry, hit the wrong button. Okay. So you're at scoring offense, you've moved from 14th to 5th. Scoring defense, Southern wasn't the worst team in the league last year. They gave up 27.4 points per game. Or that was this year. They gave up 27.4 points per game. They gave up 37.8 points per game last year. That's a 20-point turnaround. Let's go over here. Rushing offense. This year, Southern was 10th. They averaged 137 yards on the ground. Let's see. They only averaged 108 last year. So you can see that this is how I don't think Will Hall is going to work at Tulane. Huff brought quite a few players with him from Marshall. That's true. But you still had some of the same cast. And you go from 1-11 to 7-5. And you don't just do that. You have these dramatic jumps in passing offense. Last year, Southern Miss averaged 174.9 yards per game passing, or 2 years ago, and they threw 7 touchdowns. This year, they were number 1 in the league with 266.8 yards per game and threw 25 touchdowns. So that speaks to me of the thing that we talk about with program building and change building and being able to come in and just kind of flip things. Now I want to bring in somebody who knows Charles Huff better than we do. Heath Hinton, who is at Big Gold Nation, the Southern Miss on 3 site. Heath, how are you, sir? Heath, can you hear us? All right, we'll try to get that sorted out here in a second. Heath, we can't hear you if you're talking. So, I mean, Brian, when you look at that, what do what do you think about the numbers I'm reading off? And they jumped off the page to me because I don't follow Southern. I didn't realize how bad things were. I should have listened to Larry. But man, what an improvement.
Unwatchable.
Yeah, since Larry's daughters go there and he's a season ticket holder, I'd have to defer to him on the play because admittedly I don't think I even watched one Southern game. But when you do take a look at the numbers, I mean, improved in almost every single area. It's hard to deny that he turns programs around. And when you look at when he took over Marshall, it was an improvement there. So
that was a dumpster fire, guys.
Yeah.
Heath, can you hear us now?
He's unmuted. Brian,
I can't hear you. If you can hear me, I can't hear.
Hey, Heath,
we can hear you.
We can hear you now. So
we can hear you.
All right, let me hear us. I think it's we'll keep him here, and then when we we'll keep
but here's what I'll say. So the first game this year for Southern was against Mississippi State, which it was at Hattiesburg. And which, by the way, I totally give Mississippi State all the props for coming down there because that school in Oxford would have never gone to Hattiesburg. Okay? But they did. They showed up, and and bless them for doing that. And I walked out of that stadium. Now State won. I think it was 35-14 or 38-14. I don't remember, but it, but I remember walking out of there going, well, at least they looked like they were playing football today. Because guys, I'm going to tell you, at the end of that Will Hall era, those 2 years, the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, and 2023, he had Frank Gore. Let that sink in. Okay. He had Frank Gore Jr. on that team. And they looked like they didn't belong on a football field. And then it just bottomed out in 2024. That team was so bad from the jump. I think the only game they won was against a
Southeast Louisiana. Yep.
Southeast Louisiana. Okay, yeah, that was the and they played Tulane, and then it just went. And guys, it was unwatchable.
Heath, can
You
you
should
hear?
have been at Southern Miss while it was going on.
Hey,
Well,
Heath,
my
can you
daughters
hear
are
me?
there, so I understand.
It was
Hey,
it was a rough 4 years.
so want to kind of reintroduce Heath, if you can hear us. Heath Hinton from Big Gold Nation, which is the USM on 3 site. So Heath, you saw we were talking about it there firsthand, the turnaround from the end of the disaster that was the Will Hall era into the Charles Huff era. What is Memphis getting?
Memphis is getting a really excellent evaluator of talent. Somebody who can go in the portal and find guys to come in to fill the roles that he needs. You're getting a guy that is very process driven. Everything's about a process to him. He does things a certain way, and he does not stray from that. He goes into a calendar. He has what he's going to do the next 6 months is already day by day put out. That's how detail oriented he is. You're getting a guy that he tells you something's what's going to happen. Now, as far as media goes, is he going to be the most open guy ever? Probably not. You're not going to get to go to practice and watch a lot of practice. Let's just be honest. You're not going to get to talk to coordinators. That's not his thing. He's very controlling. Everything goes through Coach Huff, but uh, not in a rude way or anything. It's just the way he does things. But you're getting a really good coach and somebody I think that came into Southern Miss and turned around a disaster and got them to a bowl game, 7 wins. I don't think you could have done much better. What Southern Miss needed him to do was come back in and show people that you can win at Southern Miss. And that's what he's done. You give him, you guys' uh, player personnel budget, you give him that ability of his recruiting base in Memphis, you're gonna be very happy, in my opinion, with what you get from Charles Huff, because I think that is a Charles Huff in Memphis is a great combination to put together to see success on the field.
What? Yeah. When you talk about him and the transfer portal, is there specific areas that you feel that's his expertise? Is it quarterbacks or offense, defense? For your 1 year that he was there, from your experience, why does he excel in the transfer portal?
Well, he excelled here everywhere because he had to bring in 80 new guys. You're talking about a complete team swap over, and you're talking about Will Hall going to Tulane. I think that's one of Will Hall's biggest, not to get into Will Hall, but one of his biggest deficiencies is talent evaluation. Coach Hall can do that very well, and he had to. He had to go get. I mean, this team. There's only like 10 guys that stayed from Will Hall's team. This team was completely new, and his ability to get that many players to tug the rope in the same direction, to come out and play the way they did, and have the season they did. I don't know about you guys, but that's really impressive. That's, to me, that's almost coach of the year type of thing. I think he may would have gotten it if they had made it to the championship game, which they didn't. But to me, that's impressive when you can do that. But it also shows that players gravitate towards him too. You talk to players that came with him from Marshall and players that are here now, they love the guy. because he's honest with them. He tells them up front what he's expecting from them, and what they should expect from him. And they really appreciate it, and they really gravitate towards him. So I think you're going to get a coach that's going to be able to thrive in all areas of getting players at any level in the portal.
Before I send it to Larry, one last question for me. Telly Lockett is coming over. Is there a chance you think, is he ready to jump from a running back coach to a offensive coordinator?
Uh, I don't really know because, like, I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe so, but Coach Huff, he may still be a running back coach. Coach Huff may go out and find him a coordinator. I'm not sure about that yet. You're gonna have to see, because I just can't get inside of Coach Huff's mind to consider, would he change a position coach to a coordinator. He didn't when he came to Southern Miss. He went out and got another coach to come in and be coordinator. So I'm not sure. We'll see about that. I can't tell you an answer to that right now.
Larry?
So he's also bringing his what we call a general manager, more or less, right? And that was something that I can't remember the guy's name. What's his name?
You're talking about Reed?
Yes, yes,
Reed Grable. Yeah.
yes. So he's bringing him. So that is, John and I have talked about this on the show many times. That may be the most important spot outside of the head coach. What are we getting as far as a general manager or a player manager?
Oh, with Reed, Reed's great. Yeah, you're going to get a guy who knows what he wants in a player. I've talked to him a couple of times about, hey, have you noticed this guy? Yeah, he's just not what we're looking for. What about this guy? A lot of other schools are recruiting him in the Sun Belt. Yeah, but he's not what we're looking for. They have a set parameter of the athletes that they're looking for, and they do not stray from it. They do not stray from it at all. And Reed does a really good job of keeping, the roster balance with, different positions. He also does a good job of player personnel as far as getting the players what they need, working inside of whatever your player monetary system is. I don't know how they do that up there at Memphis, how yours is put together, but he does a good job of that. So you're getting a guy in Reed that uh, is 1-1 with Coach Huff, and they work great together. And they're a really good 1-2 combo when it comes to keeping the players really involved and understanding of what's going on.
What was the moment this year? I can tell you what mine was, but what was your moment when you knew that Coach Huff had turned that team, a program, around?
It's the Appalachian State win, not the Jackson State win, but the Appalachian State win. When Appalachian State came in and Southern Miss beat them, I thought that was the moment where you said, okay, I see what's happening now. I see what's happening. And they lost. They lost their first road contest at Louisiana Tech, but Coach Huff was very honest in a press conference afterwards. He goes, "You know what, guys, we lost, and I told them during the week, you're not preparing like you want to win." And I told them, I said, "You don't prepare better, you're going to lose," and they lost. And I think that was. And after that, they rolled off 7 straight wins. So I think, he understands his players. He understood his players a lot quicker than I thought he would, and what it takes for them to win. Each team is different. Yeah, I think it was the Arkansas State game that you saw things click.
Heath, before we let you go,
I'm not Arkansas State. I'm sorry, Appalachian State. Pardon me.
So we've talked kind of the coaching staff. What can we expect? One of the sore points at Memphis has been defense. What can we expect from a Jason Seymour defense? And also talk about Dominique Bowman. And, he's a Memphian, so he's getting a chance to kind of come home. But what can we expect from an on-field perspective from Jason Seymour's defense? Because we've struggled at Memphis, frankly, with a lot of shell-up zone coverage with, guys running free across the middle constantly. So what can we kind of look forward to seeing on the field?
Jason Seymour is a smart defensive coach. He really is. But his defenses live and die with they live and die with the turnover. And Southern Miss's defenses were really good when they got the turnover. They weren't good when teams did not turn the ball over. And you watch the last three games, the teams attacked Southern Miss the same way. Ran the ball a lot, didn't throw it much, kept it away from those elite defenders in the Sun Belt that you have in the secondary at Southern Miss, and didn't hit over the top once they, lulled you to sleep with the run. I think he's a very good defensive coordinator. If there's one thing that I would say that I would like to see, and I think he's going to be good at Memphis, but one thing I'd like to see from Seymour, maybe a little better, with not as much emphasis. And it may be just because of the players he had. Maybe that's what he felt like he had to do this year, but less emphasis on turnovers and more emphasis on getting off the field. Even Coach Huff even said, well, a batted down pass does nothing because it just gives them another play to pick it up, or, some. It was a thing put out where Southern Miss led maybe the nation of the Sun Belt and defended passes or batted passes, and Coach Huff's like, it doesn't do nothing for us. I'm like, well, keeps them from picking up yards, but whatever. You're the coach. It's if I was one thing I would say about his defense is that it's less reliance on the turnover to get offenses off the field, and that's the one area that I would say would be the biggest thing. And the run defense, I think that just a lot of that depends on what type of talent you bring in. And Southern Miss's defense was kind of built to play from the lead, to where once teams get behind, you get a pass rush going, had really good pass rushers, didn't stop the run that well, and really good secondary. So it depends on what type of defensive front you have. But if there was one thing about Coach Seymour, it is the reliance on the turnover to get offenses off the field at times, and for offenses to outscore the other team. So I would be very wary of that going into Seymour. Otherwise, he's a really good coach, really knows his stuff. But that's one thing that I would look at with Coach Seymour's defenses.
Heath, just want to say thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your time to tell us more about Coach Huff here, and best of luck to Southern Miss going forward.
Hey, thanks, guys. You got a good one. Good luck to you guys as well. Hopefully, we play. Well, we are going to play y'all in a couple of years. It'd be nice to have the Black and Blue Bowl back. So, thanks
yeah.
again. God bless, guys.
Thanks. Have a great
Appreciate
night.
it, Heath.
Heath Hinton from Big Gold Nation. They're talking about what we can expect from Charles Huff at the new coach at Memphis, coming over from Southern. All right, a couple things before we get out of here for the night. Sorry, I'm trying to get something going here. It won't work. Okay. Memphis plays in the Gasparilla Bowl on December the 19th. They take on North Carolina State University. That is, will be played in beautiful, scenic, crime-free Tampa, Florida, at Raymond James Stadium, right by the airport. There may not be a better stadium, airport, hotel set up in the country, because I want to say the stadium is, oh gosh,
you can damn near walk to it from the airport. Okay,
it's chef's kiss on the setup. That is on the 19th, I think, at 1:30 Central on, I think it's ESPN. It's either ESPN or ESPN2. I don't have it in front of me right now. So, I think did we ever determine who was calling plays?
I don't think so.
Sure.
It hasn't been announced yet.
I don't think they've announced it yet.
My thought was Brad Salem, because he used to, that used to be his thing in a former life. But Jerry Myers, I think, was another name mentioned. Reggie Howard, of course, interim head coach. No word if he's going to remain on staff. That's kind of becoming a theme, I've noticed.
I think the ones that are on staff who have a chance to stay, I think, are the ones that are from Memphis and have Memphis ties. Because if you notice, Huff, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, he tweeted out, all former players, I need you back in the 901. Make your plans, get back ASAP. Your program needs you. So if he's tweeting that out and you have someone who's, played at Memphis, from Memphis, on your staff, I mean, it don't really make sense to keep him. But, I mean, I don't know. Nothing's been announced.
You brought, even though he didn't play at Memphis, you brought another Memphis guy
Yes.
on your staff. And this city, it's probably not good enough to say, you know what, we're going to focus all of our recruiting here and build a what? Who was the coach that was going to build a wall around? Is that a word? Who was? They were going to build a wall around New Orleans or
Memphis,
whatever.
yeah, Memphis. Who was that?
But
Well, it may have been Orgeron, but I don't think so. Because Tommy West said, "Just leave me a gate."
yeah,
And
but I think that that is one thing that's important about this staff going forward. It was Tommy is Memphis can recruit. Brian, you can step in when I'm wrong here, but Louisiana,
Hmm.
Mississippi, Atlanta, and Texas.
Yeah,
I don't want to say they don't need Memphis kids, but it doesn't make or break the program like it used to because we've done a really nice job of kind of spidering out into those areas. So,
it's another podcast for another day, but it is interesting how Memphis basketball kids want to play for Memphis. Memphis football kids, high school football kids, do not. There's
I
very
think
few
that's
that.
changed a lot. I think that's
It's
changed a little
changing. It's
bit.
changing, but yeah, for the most part, I still say that the top echelon Memphis kids still want to get out.
And they want to go to the SEC, and that's fine. I don't, never fault a kid for that. So a couple other things I want to talk about. And Larry, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm going to assume, being a former player, you feel a certain kind of way about this. Brian, you being ex-military, I'm going to assume you guys feel a certain kind of way about this. This Notre Dame thing is just the most cowardly, childish. Um, I can't say the word I want to say.
pretentious. It's pretentious. That
Pretentious.
yes. The look, and even their fans are just like, we can't defend this crap. Um, the bottom line is, they felt like because they're Notre Dame, they should have gotten in when they lost at Miami, um, and they had look just like Clark Lee said, you had your chances,
Yep.
just like Memphis. We had our chances, um, and and the bottom line is you didn't. You didn't win. You didn't win all of your games. You didn't win the games that you needed to win. And so, look, guys, I, what you really did was you cost. And right now, these kids may not even realize it, but somebody on that Notre Dame team just got robbed of a chance to play a football game, and they'll never ever suit up and play football again in their life. They'll never do it. And that just got taken away from them. And all because some people that are supposed to be adults can't act like adults. They just threw a temper tantrum. And guys, I think first off, if I was a bowl, look, and I know there's Notre Dame, so you're still going to offer them, but if I was a bowl, I'd think twice about bringing Notre Dame in. I would, because look, here's the reality that Notre Dame is the school that thinks they are Indiana basketball. Okay, they they are Indiana basketball. Haven't done anything in 30 years, and still thinks it's 1989.
Yeah, and Jeb brings up a great point. The fallout from this, Brian, between the Notre Dame and the ACC has been public, and it has been really nasty the last couple of days. I tweeted
Hmm.
that I think this whole nonsense we've just gone through is probably the end of college football as we know it.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, yeah, basically they just took their ball and went home. Um, I saw that Marcus Freeman's being heavily considered for the New York Giants gig. I mean, I guess it would suit him. He wouldn't go to the playoffs there either. So,
Wow, Brian,
I mean,
man, the Giants out
so
here catching strays.
Damn.
yeah.
Whew. But no,
But yeah, it's just it's stupid.
it is stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw other programs, and then was it I can't remember the other two. Was it Big 12
It was
teams?
Kansas State and Iowa State, and I want
Yeah.
to give I'm willing to give a little more grace because what Kansas State was 6-6. First of all, I'm willing to give them, and a coach retired. Like I'm willing
Yeah.
to. It's not right, but I'm willing to give grace. Iowa State, man, just having your world turned upside down. The guy that you thought was literally never going to leaving. I'm willing to give a little grace there, but I will say, and this is what I said. I've got a friend at Notre Dame, and I said, who was defending this? Well, this problem solved if they put us in. I said, why would we play in a meaningless bowl game? I said, that bowl game is for three groups of people: fans. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about Temple in just a second. It's for fans. Realistically, it's fans. Give them a chance to see the team. Larry, to your point, seniors to play one last time. Maybe four groups. Bowl games, obviously. Practices, underclassmen,
Yep.
practices, practice. Well, we get 15. Is that
Yeah.
right? 15 extra practices to be better next year. Or let's just put it out there: 15 practices and another game on tape for a kid to go play to a school where he's going to get to play. Those are the losers. And I don't care about the bowl executives because they got enough money. They're not, whatever. The fans have invested a lot of money, but many Notre Dame fans are very pretentious. So I don't, the seniors, the kids, I mean, it is naive, but it's still about the kids to me in some respects. And, Larry, you played college ball, what that very last day was like. And Notre Dame doesn't get that. They don't get the benefit of that because they went 10-2 and thought they had one more. And then they're like, oh, no, well, we're not going to do it.
Right.
And I think that's,
you don't get to build up. So here's the thing: like when you're that last week, you just it's so special, and you start trying to soak everything in, and thinking about it. It's just special, and they didn't get that. It sucks, and you're thinking you're going to go, because a lot of times, like, your family members are planning to come see you play in that last game,
yep,
right?
yep,
And so they may not have been at the last Notre Dame game because they're thinking, well, we'll go see them at the bowl or the playoff game or whatever, right? And now they don't get that, and it's way more than a meaningless bowl. It's way more than that, and you can tell the people that have never been out there, because there is no meaningless game ever.
yep. That's right. So I want to, two things before we get out of here. So Jeb asked, what the heck happened to Temple? Poor Temple got what I would call, being a Gen Xer, call weighted. So basically, what happens is when all this kind of trickled down, the Birmingham Bowl was kind of left in a bit of a lurch. They needed a you go through the APR, you need a 5-7 team. Well, they just start going down the list. Rutgers, by the way, declined twice.
I know.
Ryan, twice.
Losers.
We're going to talk about Notre Dame. We're going to put Rutgers out there.
Hmm.
Twice they got ghosted. And when they called Temple, apparently they didn't get, Temple, I guess, left a voicemail. I don't know, sent an email. I don't know how that process works. Lord, would I love to. They called Appalachian State, and Appalachian State jumped on it. So now Appalachian State and Georgia Southern, who are rivals, are going to play in the Birmingham Bowl again. And I hate it for the Birmingham Bowl because, they kind of got the short end of the stick with this, but they're going to get a game that I think two fan bases are going to show up for because it's kind of a rivalry game. But poor Temple, they put out a statement. They're like, we didn't turn anything down. They didn't give us a chance to answer the phone. We would have gladly been ready to play, but it was ugly and nonsensical, and shame on Notre Dame. I don't have patience for that. I'm a big proponent of player movement, coach movement, players making as much as they should. But at the crux of it is still, there's a player aspect to be had. And it's not like these bowl, and it's like Jeb said, it's not like they were going to the freaking CarQuest Bowl. I mean, they were going to go somewhere, they were going to go to the Pop Tarts Bowl. Isn't that everybody's dream come true? It's like, see the strawberry Pop Tart, which we can all agree is the best, come down and get toasted and come out and you get to eat the Pop Tart. Like, that's man, that's the good stuff in life. But anyway, I want to close with this, and then we will be back next week for we'll talk about NC State. Um, did you guys see earlier today the Utah news where they are launching a for-profit arm? Pop Tarts are so good; they're the best. Um, and athletics is going to work through that, and it's funded by venture capital.
I like to say it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and guys, I mean, if history has taught us anything, everything works perfectly when venture capital is involved in it. Nothing ever possibly goes wrong. Um, but I just thought that was interesting, and Mike James and I had a little back and forth about that from a Title IX perspective. So now, because Title IX, for those who don't know, say you can't discriminate, and that's why you have to have so many women's scholarships for men's scholarships. So if you move exactly who hires and fires the coaches, who's responsible for NIL, you can't just drive revenue to something. Here's a business lesson, boys and girls. You can't just drive revenue to something and not have an output. Like, you can't just say, well, we're going to put all the money here and it's just going to stay there. Like, accounting rules prevent that. You can't do that. So I think that you've seen enough this weekend that the ACC is dead. I think this Notre Dame thing, this very public, ugly, ugly dispute. Although I will say, Notre Dame, the Big 12 has kind of jumped on the train too of saying, you guys are in the wrong here. Like, you're wrong, because they came out and they blamed the ACC for sticking up for Miami. What's the ACC supposed to do? What would you have asked them to do? To
If
say,
Notre Dame wants a conference to stick up for him, well, then, buddy, join a conference.
be in a conference, and let's not get anything twisted. How many FBS conferences are there? 10? Is that right? 10? 10 conferences would fall all over themselves to have Notre Dame be a part of the conference. It's not like if they called Tim Pernetti up and he's be like, let me think about it. We can have you here in an hour. Like, it's not, it's whatever. But just, I think the ACC is dead. I think the bowl system, this is probably, I hope you enjoy it this year. Probably next year. I think after that, you're not going to see bowls as, I don't want Notre Dame in the American. Just ask the Big 12 in Texas how all that mess worked out. Anyway, I think one interesting proposal I've seen, guys, is moving bowl games to the beginning of the season. You got all those week 0 games. Let the results from the last season give you some meaningful, good matchups. Would you rather see Memphis, NC State on December 19th in Tampa, where NC State's 7-5, Memphis is 8-4? Both teams are probably disappointed in how they ended up. Or August 29th in Tampa with 0-0, and that's your week 0 game. So let's let cooler heads prevail. But I think that, this is the beginning of the break. We've talked about it for years, guys, that this is untenable. College football cannot exist in this manner. College football does not need a playoff to determine a champion. It's never needed a playoff. A semi-pro football league does. They need to figure out how to crown a champion. We had it everything with the BCS, and those of us that shouted against it, and now everybody's like, boy, we should go back to BCS. Told you. We knew what was going to happen, that when you start getting money involved, more money. So, but anyway, so next week we'll be back on Tuesday night. We'll talk NC State. We'll try to get a guest from NC State. I haven't watched 23 seconds of them this year, to be perfectly honest.
That was a very specific number, John.
I watched 22 seconds the opening.
Okay, all right.
We'll talk all things Memphis, NC State, that matchup, and then after that, the Sunday following the bowl game, we will put a lovely, pretty bow on the entirety of this season. It hasn't been 2007 crazy.
And I warn everyone, John and I will be getting ready not only for Christmas, my birthday, but also a 7-day cruise. So that Sunday could be an interesting show. You might want
that's why we're doing it before we go on the cruise. That's why we're doing it That's why this is a pre-cruise event. But this has
You
been a
sure you don't
great.
want to do it while you're on the cruise? That might be
Um,
interesting.
Interesting the word. I don't know that Apple would allow our podcast to ever be back on ever again, but hey, who knows? So that's kind of the plan. Is we're going to do next week, and then the Sunday before Christmas, we will do the kind of the season
The
wrap. So
bow.
sorry, just had a loud noise in my house. So we're going to
Cool.
end the podcast there. Hope everybody's okay.
All
For
right.
the Coco host, all the land, Larry Marley, and Brian Moss, this is John Maddox signing off. Thanks for joining us this season. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you then.